Hey, y'all, there's some chairs right over here. If you're looking for places to sit down, just right over there, yes.
Seven chairs over this way.
Hine ma tovu manaim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manaim, shevet achiot gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achiot gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manaim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manaim, shevet achiot gam yachad. Baruch da'an ha'emet. Blessed is the judge of truth. Tonight, as we confront a new normal, we come together as a community to help each other understand what it means to live in a world without our loved one in it. Together, we begin the process of healing as we say goodbye to Connie Sanders, a person beloved by all those who are here tonight. I want to thank you all for being here and honoring her life and supporting her family. My name is Rabbi Abram Goodstein, and welcome to Congregation Beth Shalom. Connie may not have been Jewish, but she raised a Jewish family, and we are honored to host her in her memorial this evening. In Judaism, when we think of a loved one loss, we say, may their memory be a blessing. And tonight, as we celebrate Connie's life, we'll be reminded of Connie's blessings. And whether these blessings bring tears to your eyes or a smile to your lips, I encourage you to embrace all the emotions you experience as we remember her and the impact she had over everyone that's here. So first up, I'd like to call up John, who's going to sing for us The House of God Forever in honor of Connie.
Sorry, I wasn't planning on saying something, but as a kid, I was waiting. I was probably 10 or 11 years old, waiting to play a game with my Uncle Greg and my brother. And my Aunt Connie and Uncle Greg were in washing dishes, and I started harassing my Uncle Greg, telling him, dishes are for girls, Uncle Greg. Come play a game with us. And if you know Aunt Connie, she gave me that scoffing look, and I knew real quick that I was gonna be washing dishes the rest of the weekend. And today, I run a business where a lot of dishes come through. And so I still today, our staff, it's the first thing I do whenever I come into the coffee shop is wash dishes. Aunt Connie was always serving, and she taught me how to serve as a kid. And it's been a blessing, even in my community back in Colorado, what she instilled in my life as a kid. And so anyway, this is a song that I felt relevant for today to share.
God is my shepherd, I won't be wanting, I won't be wanting. God makes me rest in fields green, in quiet streams. Even though I walk through the valley of death and night, I will not fear. You are with me, always with me. Shepherd's staff comforts me. You are my peace, presence of enemies. Surely goodness will follow me in the house of God forever. God is my shepherd, I won't be wanting, I won't be wanting. He makes me rest in fields green, quiet streams. Even though I walk through the valley of death and night, shepherd's staff comforts me, are my peace, presence of enemies. Surely goodness will follow me in the house of God forever. House of God forever.
Thank you, John. And now I would like to invite Rebecca to say a few words.
Hi, I'm Rebecca, Connie's daughter. I want to start by acknowledging our family who are here with us today. My grandma Pat, my aunt Heidi, my cousins, John, David, and Michaela, my Uncle Greg, and my Aunt Karen, and my cousin Jay. And we want to acknowledge my Aunt Nancy and all the cousins who couldn't be here. Lastly, we want to remember our family who have passed, my Grandpa Horace and my Uncle Ken. Thank you for being here. I'm up here to talk about my mom, and I'm up here to talk about me too, because they go together. I've been thinking about what to say here for a month and a half, but this is a hard thing to write. How do you encapsulate the complexities of a person in words? I mean, I don't think I can. I spent 4 years on an English degree. I know all about how humans are represented by words. But stories, as much as my family likes to tell them, don't really compare to the real thing of a human life. When a whole person is reduced only to words, those stories fall short. And that's the whole crux of the issue, you know? My mom isn't here in her full form. She only lives on in our memories. She lives on in the many versions of her that you and I know and will express to each other tonight. We each hold a fraction of a whole person who no longer exists in a complete form. And yet, the hope is that there is a version of her that each of you hold. All of this family, all of the friends that are and aren't here today, all the people that she helped and talked to and impacted, you all hold your own part of my mom. Each time we share our part of her, we remember her and know her more fully. And so I want to tell you about my part of my mom. As a warning, this next part will be about me, but I don't think my mom should have expected anything different, right? She raised a self-assured and pragmatic daughter, and also she's not here to argue with me. I'm going to borrow a format that I heard first from Rabbi Abram at her burial, and that's originally from Sylvan Kamens and Rabbi Jack Reimer. It goes like this. When I tell my students the world doesn't revolve around you, and I remember how often my mom said that to me, I remember her. When someone does something stupid and I make the same scoffing noise as her in my throat, I remember her. Now, I can't do it on command, but if you miss her, you can just say something stupid enough and I'll make the sound. Okay, so. When I solve somebody else's problem, I remember her. When I stand up for myself and my opinion, I remember her. When I knit and craft and see the art in the nature around me, I remember her. When I hear any song by the Chicks, I remember her. When I need to do something hard, I hear her voice in my head saying, "You're perfectly capable, Rebecca," and I remember her. When I pet my cat and interact with animals, I remember her. When I look in the mirror and I see my stick straight hair and my smile and my glasses, I remember her. When I seek adventure and new experiences, I remember her. When I curl up with a good book and then talk it over with friends over a glass of wine, I remember her. When I laugh with my family, I remember her. When I make my own choices and take the reins of my life and set new courses, I remember her. When I trust myself, I remember her. I'll end by saying this. Until a month or so ago, I had never existed in a world without my mom. I'm sure dimly somewhere she existed in a world before me, but I don't know anything about that, right? My mom is fundamental to my life and to my experiences of myself. To know me is to know my version of my mom. The person that I am in the world is profoundly influenced by her character. I cherish the complex representation of her that I hold, and I know that you cherish yours. Thank you for listening to my version of my mother.
Thank you, Rebecca. I would like to call up the Anchorage Amigas. I believe you know who you are.
I'm Deborah Benito, Leslie Riedel, Nina Benito Romine, Leslie Verderga, Mickey Schroff. Everyone here today and online, knows that Connie was a wonderful human being. Leslie Rydell met Connie at YCC camp when they were 15 years old. I was lucky enough to join their pack when I was 14. Actually, I had a crush on Leslie's little brother, but I quickly realized that Leslie and Connie were way more fun than Billy. We did all the fun Bartlett High School things together, all in, all the time, laughing most of the way. My sister Nina and our friend Vandy, we call Leslie Vandergaal Vandy for obvious reasons. They became close with Connie in their 20s. They were drawn together by common causes, the kind of solidarity you get when you run your teachers' union in your school and you're working on political campaigns together. We all bonded over all those war room activities. And then Vandy's Mickey joined the group and completed our squad. Because of a shared interest in the Spanish language and just because, our text chain became the Anchorage Amigas. So that's who we are. So here we are, celebrating the life of our dear friend. How do you put a lifetime of love into a few words? Duly elected as a spokesperson for our group, I reached out to each one and asked them for their thoughts about what we should share about Connie. Not surprisingly, we all circled around the same character themes for describing our Connie. We, the Anchorage Amigas, have known Connie for almost 50 years. To say she's like a sister to all of us is not an exaggeration. We've all shared so much of each other's lives. We were roommates, we were housemates, we shared weddings, divorces, we shared first loves, we shared true loves. Well, I don't mean shared, but you know what I mean. We supported each other through all that. We weren't quite that close. We can't tell you all the stories and all the fun times because we'd have to be here another 50 years for that. And also because Connie's mom's in the room. Connie was never the loudest in our group, but she always joined in the fun. Sometimes she led the fun. She was up for hikes, for bike trips, for travel, any activity where we could all be together and have a good time. She was an honest and loyal friend who never wavered in her love for all of us and her many friends and family, as you all have experienced. One would have been sorely mistaken, though, to take Connie's quietness for a form of meekness. Connie felt fiercely, and our friend could be zealously defiant in the face of injustice. She would give no ground to a bully, and there was nothing she wouldn't do for a friend or family or a person in need. Perhaps it was Connie's love and care for pets that was the biggest glimpse into her big, kind, compassionate, caring heart. When we lived together for a time at Warwick Place, Connie worked at the Eagle River Vet Clinic. Many nights she'd show up at home with some random dog or cat because she just couldn't bear to leave them overnight unattended at the clinic. That's how we welcomed Sophie the setter, Crash, that crazy kitten, crazy curtain climbing kitten, and countless other creatures into our home. Her heart was big, maybe because she was born on Valentine's Day, I don't know. Her heart was big and she was so caring. So we want to thank Bob and Rebecca and Henry and Sal for sharing her with us all these years. When you came into her life, when you came into existence, we were there. She loved you all so much. And I'm sure Bob realized about 5 minutes into their relationship while he was dating Connie that if he was going to spend time with Connie, we were all going to be a part of his life. One of my favorite memories will always be from one of our weekends at Kachemak Bay. I observed this look across the bonfire between Connie and Bob when a favorite song came on. And all of a sudden, without a word being spoken, Connie was up and out of her folding chair and joyfully swing dancing with Bob, silhouetted by the setting sun on the beach. They had a lot of fun together. Bob drew her out in ways that other people couldn't. It was an amazing, loving relationship. We'll miss Connie, but we will remain aunties to Henry and Rebecca and Sal, and we'll always be friends with Bob. And we just want to say thank you, Pat, Heidi, Greg, Horace. Thank you, and all of Connie's extended family, many of whom are watching online today, for raising such a lovely person. She enhanced all of our lives, and her memory is already a blessing. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to call up Jeannie to say a few words.
Thank you all for coming to celebrate Connie's multifaceted jewel of a life. My name is Jeannie Hammond, and I was a fellow parent, volunteer, and Board of Trustees member at the Aurora Anchorage Waldorf School. We also carpooled for 7 years together. Connie was so smart, solid, and calm. She was devoted to her family and children, Henry and Rebecca. She did so much invisible work beyond the tangible volunteer work at seasonal festivals, annual class plays, parent evenings, assemblies, and board meetings. Behind the scenes, Connie was a constant source of calm, humble expertise and strategic problem solving. I will never forget and will be forever grateful for the time Connie came into the office when finances and the budget were being untangled from previous messy bookkeeping. As the newly hired executive director, I had woefully little experience with these, and I called Connie because I knew she knew what would be the best next step. She showed up to find me deer in the headlights in the school office on a Saturday morning and proceeded to calmly lay out a plan to sort things out and make order out of chaos. She did this all with a gentle, quiet humor, confidentiality, and the kind of humble leadership that empowered me to have confidence in myself and the path forward. She was calm, and thus I felt calm. A teacher then at AWS recalls meeting Connie when Rebecca was in her class. Connie showed up with selfless support all year long. The school was consolidating 2 separate campuses into one, and Connie was the calm, steady presence among literally moving chaos. Again, creating order from chaos. She was just solid. Another parent recalls Connie as a calm, intelligent, and always supportive community member of our tight-knit school. She had a wonderful wit that often emerged at just the right moment, just exactly when it was desperately needed. Her presence was one of strength and solidarity. A carpooling memory with Connie was the year, I think it was 3rd grade, when Henry and another boy in the carpool were all learning the ukulele. They would plunk and plink and sing their way to school and back from the backseat of our cars, and yet we survived. As a co-parent in the same class as Henry, I remember a couple of vulnerable conversations with Connie during the middle school years. Bemoaning that there was no manual or instruction book as our young children disappeared, replaced by new offspring that we hadn't met before. And we needed to get to know, so we did. Connie was president of the Board of Trustees when Henry graduated from 8th grade, and I still remember her wise and thoughtful address to all of us at that happy occasion. And there is, I believe, a slide in the slideshow of her at a podium. Many years later, I was in the turn lane on the Seward Highway in Midtown and glanced over to see Connie in the adjacent turn lane waiting for the green light. We quickly rolled down windows and picked up like we'd never left. She yelled over that Henry was engaged to a wonderful young woman and that Rebecca was thriving. The light turned green and off we went. Connie taught us that a community is built one kind, smart, and calm act at a time. We will all miss her deeply, but we will carry forward her spirit of alchemy, chaos to calm, her resilience and devotion. We will remember her kind, calm, and wise spirit in the days, months, and years ahead. Thank you, Connie, for everything.
Thank you, Jeannie. Next up, I'm inviting Mimi up here to say a few words.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mimi Beck. I first met Connie Sanders when she married my friend Bob in 1993. But we really became friends as moms walking on the coastal trail. We walked and we talked, accompanied by whatever dogs we lived with during those years. Connie's were usually Bernese mountain dogs, but I remember an early golden retriever as well. Our talks ran the gamut: husbands, health, work, whether paid or volunteer, knitting, politics, books. Of course, Connie gave me hundreds of hours of free veterinary advice. We covered a lot of territory in those walks, and I'm not talking about the miles between Kincaid Park and the port of Anchorage. Along the way, we became excellent friends. Connie was meticulous and focused. She saw a clear path she would want to follow in most situations. Once she had identified a goal, she was methodical and took steps to achieve it. That's how she became a veterinarian, a Democratic campaign treasurer, and even that's why she became a vegan weightlifter in pursuit of a healthier and longer life. She was a natural executive. She quickly saw what she believed was right and acted without too much soul searching. Her views were so certain that she often had a hard time understanding other people's conclusions. And even if it was Bob's, it was my job to sometimes try to convince her that the other person had a legitimate point of view. And I try as I might, she would often implement her famous scoff and eye roll. And there was much laughter around my trying to make her see the other guy's ideas. Connie was happiest with a job outside the home, even when her kids were little. Her jobs ranged widely, as you've heard. She was a vet, and she did the Waldorf School, and she helped to run stores in the bush and other jobs. At each job, she made new friends, and she kept the connections to her old ones, as you've heard. In her free time, she was a meticulous, if occasional, craftsperson. She knitted sweaters and yarmulkes, she made beautiful quilts, and she played around with watercolors. She and I shared a love for an occasional decadent treat, a party dress, a spa day, or a luscious dessert that was strictly outside of her vegan diet. She and Bob had some great adventures together, kayaking Prince William Sound and traveling the world, including Galapagos, Japan, Africa. When we did a raft trip in the Grand Canyon, Bob and Connie's impeccable swing dancing took first prize in our dance contest. Only a few people in the world know that. Until now, only the people who were there know that fact, and now you all know. As I'm sure you've gathered, Connie and Bob raised terrific children. Connie adored Rebecca and Henry, and she was really delighted to welcome Henry's Saliha, an accomplished and lively woman, into the crew. Connie told me not long ago how proud and pleased she was that both her kids had entered professions that will change the world for the better. Henry biology and Rebecca teaching. It was an unspoken premise of our friendship that I usually let Connie pick the walk route or the restaurant. She always had her reasons, and once she was set in a direction, she was very hard to dissuade. She was the same in her health decisions. I had the privilege of spending a lot of time with her in January this year. Her breast cancer had metastasized, and she was home with Bob in Anchorage undergoing treatment. She was deeply relieved when imaging showed her brain was free of the cancer, although the other results were worrisome. She needed to have her wits about her. It was a fundamental of her character. Tragically, she had a setback that required hospitalization in early February. One thing led to another, and she ultimately decided to stop treatment. That decision was definitely in Connie mode. She saw what she thought was best, and she went ahead with it. I miss her, but I can't help but be glad that she got to be herself to the very end. So I'll give you a happier outcome of a Connie decision process. Last year, we went on a group vacation to Greece. One day, the husband carelessly booked us economy seats on a ferry. It was a big thing. We were in steerage. We were down in the boat basement. Literally no windows, crowded seats with no space for our luggage, and little kids everywhere. The guys did not care at all. They headed up to the decks to watch us leave the harbor. Vicki and I shrugged, oh well, 3 hours, 4 hours maybe. Connie, however, was indignant. Terrible seats. What were they thinking? This never should have happened. And she disappeared. 20 minutes passed until Connie returned victorious. She had upgraded the women to a higher class. I think it was called Greek Tycoon or Traveling Royalty class, I'm not sure. We had these huge leather seats and giant windows and widescreen TVs and our own espresso kiosk. It was fun and memorable, and it happened fully because of Connie's sense of propriety. Eventually, we joined the guys outside, but not before a latte and some nice girl time. I have some great pictures from that Greece trip. My camera was set on live, so each shot includes a few seconds of motion. The photo that Bob chose, this photo, for the obituary, came from that trip. It was a breezy, sunny evening on the island of Naxos. In my live version, Connie starts out looking at Bob, but turns to face the camera. You can see the motion of her hair and the jacket slung over her arm. A car is driving in the distance. Bob moves his hand onto her waist, and Connie offers up her smile for the picture. It is a glimmer of a lovely moment from a lovely life, and I'm so glad I was there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mimi. Tim, you're up next.
My wife, Barbara Brown, wrote this. And like Mimi, we didn't know Connie before Bob and Connie. And she wrote it in the first person, so when I say I and me, it's Barbara. I can't remember a Thanksgiving or Passover Seder that wasn't at our house or Bob and Connie's. I can't remember a Passover that Connie didn't volunteer to do a dessert because she was brave enough to figure out how to make a cake without rising agents or even eggs. What do you do with a history that rewards the finding of the Africoman with Easter chocolate? And now, especially for Henry, what do you do with a history that includes some child projectile vomiting grape juice all over a poor adult? What do you do with a history that includes a Venn diagram quilt block of Connie, Bob, Tim, and me overlapped with Sophie, her dog, our baby? I think Tim and I were the go-to trip partners, just as Bob and Connie were our go-to trip partners. So was Byers Lake or Africa or Turkey and Azerbaijan and Maui, and it was the moose and back decks and bikes down the arm. What do you do with a history that includes Rebecca waking up early to save 9 lounge chairs for all of us in the Sapa, and Bob playing whistles and tunes in the hotel lobby as Bob conducted? It had an astonishing mini golf hole-in-one, a COVID New Year in our backyard where we discovered we'd been sitting for 4 hours and 4 degrees. What about the screw up in Dubai that put us in front of the hotel, but behind security gates that wouldn't open until the next day? Or the amazing theft of the fanny pack that set all of us out on a chase and ultimately victory. Tim and Bob after the thief, Connie and I picking up the stuff that he tossed as he ran. What do you do with a history that includes a Memorial Day where Bob and Tim shot off fireworks from our raft and hit a cabin window in the Kenai? The guys ducked, Connie and I looked like the culprits. No trip was complete without Bob leaving something behind, Tim getting something swiped, and Connie and me commiserating over our husbands' trials. Oh, all those adventures. Connie and I hunted up fabric in an African market, taking kayaks to Nancy Lake, and Connie hitchhiking back to get Sophie and Sarah because we couldn't get the kayaks back on the roof of the car. If I close my eyes, I can imagine Connie laughing as I tripped in Turkey and flew into an already moving revolving door. I would love to hear her laughing at that again. What do you do with the history of Connie teaching me 5 crowns, us teaching her Quirkle? But she and I were the totally amazing team of code names. Our record of 4 clues, unseated only by Henry and Sal, is 5. And a side note, our Bob and my record was worse than the Washington Generals. What do you do with a history that includes the absolute ridiculous game of Happy Salmon? I don't know what to do with all the history except write it down, tell stories, laugh and hug about it, and recognize that energy cannot be created or destroyed. Connie's energy has just taken up residence elsewhere, maybe somewhere in all of us.
Thank you, Tim. Mark, I invite you up here to say a few words.
You know, I was sitting here and I was at a moment as people were entering a little PTSD, because as a former elected official, when they add chairs, that is not a good thing. That's usually a lot of angry people. But what a testament to Connie to have every chair they can find brought out here today. She touched people in very simple but yet profound ways. You know, I sat here and I was listening to the stories, and Mimi, I still don't understand what happened to the husbands. You know, you got the better seats and they went somewhere. Connie, they stayed on deck and they slept on deck. So I felt, Bob, I felt for you. And I felt for you when you were courting Connie, because I already knew about the amigas. And I saw him just doing everything right, courting, doing everything. I'm smiling to myself, you have no idea. No idea. Because my experience started, and I did notice, you know, they turned the photos off. I started dating my wife, Deborah, when the otherwise known as, not before they were amigas, the Witches of Warwick. If you don't see that photo up there, you should. But Connie's mother is here. So I had this experience. I was courting Deborah. She says, come over to the house. You know, these are my roommates. One is a veterinarian. I said, okay, you know. Well, one little detail. I'm allergic to dogs and cats. So I'm thinking to myself, veterinarian, they keep their work at work. Until I opened the door, I thought I had walked into a zoo. There were so many animals, but I thought to myself, I'll be okay. So the next time, I'm over at the convenience store buying as many drugs as I can and taking them. And I thought, those were just temporary, because that's what I heard. These were just temporary animals. They'll go back to the veterinarian clinic. No. Every time I went over there, I have to say, those years or that period of time, I'm not sure I remember it because I was in a fog from all the making sure I did not break out in some form. But it was who Connie was. I remember when I asked her to be a treasurer, and people said, a veterinarian, a treasurer. I said, hey, people who love their animals and take care of them, they'll do good on the books. And she had become this person who could do these things. I hired her when I had the stores, and she was our CFO. And I have to tell you, Rebecca, she had that sound. I didn't know what it was. So now I know, because it was like every day I'd say something, and she'd give me this look, and then have this little motion of that. Does she agree or disagree? I don't know. And usually she didn't do what I asked her to do. And I thought, now I know exactly what that was about. And they were great swing dancers. The thing I noticed about Connie, she would just join the crowd. She was in a vortex at times with these guys. They'd be out on that dance floor. But Connie, when she wasn't doing swing dancing, she had a very stoic method of dancing. If you ever watched, I'm not going to do it. But she would join in, she'd be part of it. And then when Bob and her would do the swing dance, it didn't matter what the song was, frankly. They would just do it. It was an amazing thing to watch those two. The one thing I did learn about, because I learned, Bob, not to participate in their conversations, because you think you could. You'd have a little conversation, they'd be, the next thing you know, you're like, I'm here. But when it came to Connie, when she turned to be a vegan, I love desserts. So I'm like, oh, brownies. Connie made some brownies. Now you have to understand, if you have not had vegan brownies, and when she was learning how to make them, they had a texture. But I knew one thing, with that group, and Connie, you just join in. You eat the desserts. And I ate them all, and there's no question about it. But she just, when she dived into things, she just did it without hesitation. She wanted to be a vegan, she's gonna be a vegan. She wanted to exercise, she took our rowing machine, which was fine with me, because I'm not that person, so I was happy to load it and see it go by. She was an incredible person, and again, as I said at the beginning, she was a testament to how many people are here. She was quiet, but forceful. She had a tone that everyone knew what it meant. It's why I wore a suit today. I was scared to death of her at times. I thought, she, see, I'm one of the few here, but I knew she had this special talent that is just who she was, a person that meant what she said. When she saw you, she was gonna be there no matter what, if she was your friend, and no matter what the turbulence around, this chaos, she was the calm that would come through the waters. So it's an honor to be here. To Henry and Rebecca and Bob, unbelievable person in your life. Thank you for sharing it, not just with me, but with everyone here and many others that have been touched that are not here tonight.
Thanks, Mark. Up next, Henry and Sal. I'm going to say a few words.
Sure. Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Saleha Belgami. I'm Connie's daughter-in-law and Henry's wife.
And I'm Henry, Connie's son.
I'm going to say something short, and then Henry's going to read something that Bob prepared for him. You can't predict what it will be like to get to know your partner's parents. And when Henry was preparing me to meet his parents, he told me, my dad's really easy because he's, super outgoing, but my mom is more reserved. So don't worry if it seems like she doesn't like you. Just truly a terrifying pep talk to receive. But though Connie and Bob did turn out to have very different personalities as advertised, I never doubted for 1 second that I was welcome in their family. From the very beginning, over the years, over the years, I felt the quiet care and attention that Connie gave to the people in her life. She asked about, remembered, and encouraged my interests. She worried about me when I got sick. Connie encouraged and supported me through grad school. She recommended good books and articles to read. She answered late-night veterinary questions of variable urgency. We enjoyed exchanging gossip from our lives and discussing shared crafts and doing a puzzle together over the holidays. I felt her love as one of her children, and I felt it as her friend. I'm so happy to have met her and known her, and I'm so grateful for her inviting me into her family and making me feel like a part of it.
Okay, so my dad wanted to write something to say here, but was not sure that he could make it through, and for some reason, I thought I would be able to make it through, so I'll try my best. But this is written in my dad's voice, so, and it sounds like it's written in first person, so when I say I, it's really my dad. I suppose it's traditional for husbands in this situation to describe the virtues of their departed wife. And after 32 years of marriage, I have a pretty good grasp on them. But I think I'll describe these virtues in a roundabout way. Please bear with me. First, in the hospital, our family and Connie's friends, Leslie, Deb, and Nina, were taking turns sitting with Connie, and others visited. More than one nurse remarked that Connie clearly had an unusually large number of dedicated old friends. Now, presuming that the nurses meant long-term rather than just old, it struck me how true and perhaps unusual the nurses' observation was. They certainly thought it was noteworthy. Let me give you another example. When Connie and I were married 32 years ago, 15 people had a standing part in that ceremony, all except one, including Ken Foster's memory, which I believe is here, and I am including Michaela, the ring bearer, who was young enough to get bored with all the talk about love and proceeded to very intelligently pick blueberries outside the ceremony. In case any of you are wondering, I, Henry, was not there. I don't know how common it is to maintain the level of friendship with people who were close to you 32 years ago, but if you had asked me at the time whether we would still have these connections decades into the future, I would have been slightly surprised to find out we would maintain as many as we have. The second incident also happened during Connie's illness. On the way home from the hospital one day, I remarked that so many people were helping, providing food, doing the shopping, and performing other tasks that to keep my karma positive, I would have to find old folks to help across the street. Someone, I think it was Saleh, has said, "No, you're wrong. It's not that they are creating karma you will have to repay. It's that Connie is reaping the benefits of all the good karma that she created throughout her life." Now, with apologies to any Buddhists listening who understand the real meaning of karma, I thought it was an insightful remark. And a huge number of people gave up a lot to help during that time. During the 2 months of Connie's illness, friends brought food, did shopping and other odd jobs, shoveled the driveway, and helped in other ways. And many others sincerely offered, but we lacked the ability to provide enough tasks for them. Which is worthwhile considering how many helped. I have so much food saved up that even now, I probably will not have to cook until August. I'd like to thank many of the people who helped. This won't be all of them. Leslie Rydell organized scheduled food and deliveries. People who delivered food included Leslie Vandergaard, Nina Romine, Leslie Rydell and her friend Kevin Smith, Deb Bonito, Chris Beck, Suzanne Green, Meg Simonian, Mimi Beck, Claire Borsma, Rachel Barenbaum, Shauna Toma, Brett and Tyler Watson, Kelly Duford, and Isaac Vanderberg. Also, I'm sorry if I butchered anyone's name. Also, my neighbors, Kelly, Isaac, Margot, Thomas, and Allison, shoveled my driveway for 2 months without ever asking. They just did it. Mimi Beck flew up from Portland specifically to sit with Connie for some time each day. Mark Spano did shopping. My sister did loads of odd jobs, and Walt Reed had the unfortunate task of being my informal consultant to this stage of life. I'm sure there are others I'm missing, and if so, I apologize for not naming you. The point I want to make is that the extent of help during Connie's illness from old friends and more recent friends is remarkable to me. The quality of her friendships and the quality of her friends is better evidence of my wife's virtues than I can explain by making a list. That and her family, Henry, Rebecca, and Taliha, is evidence of a life well lived. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry and Sal. I'd like to say a poem here, or a sort of a way this works is that I'm going to say a sentence, and you're going to reply with, "We remember them." Rebecca mentioned this earlier, so here we go. In the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and the chill of the winter, we remember them. In the opening of the buds and the rebirth of the spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and the warmth of the sun, we remember them. In the rustling of the leaves and the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the years and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. In Judaism, when we honor a loved one lost, we like to say a prayer called the Mourner's Kaddish. And so we're going to say the Mourner's Kaddish just this evening on behalf of Connie. This is the kind of prayer where we all stand up to recite. So if we invite everyone to stand up, please. And if you know it, please recite it with me. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah B'ilma Divra Charyote V'yamlik Malchute B'chayechon Uvyamechon Uvchayedechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala Uvizman Kari V'imru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarak Le'olam Ulamei Almaya Yitbarak V'yishtabak V'yitpa'ar V'yitbromam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei Kudasha Barichu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma ve'emru. Amen. Yehei shlam rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleni v'yakol Yisrael ve'emru. Amen. Osei shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleni v'yakol Yisrael ve'emru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high and bring peace to us and to all who love Connie, to which we say, Amen. You may be seated. I want to thank you all for being here. And Bob wants me to make sure that you all know there's food available in the multi-purpose room out there. You're allowed to bring it into the sanctuary to eat if you would like. So let's stay for a little while and reminisce on Connie. We'll turn the slideshow back on so you can look at those pictures. Once again, thank you for being here for Connie's Memorial, and I'm looking forward to chatting about Connie for the rest of this evening. Take care, everyone. Okay, Henry, let's figure this out again.